So minority influence and social change are both fairly similar, because for social change to occur, you have to have minority influence, or at least 90% of the time you do. Okay, so we're going to be looking at them kind of both together. Bear in mind you can be asked about them separately, but there's a lot of similar content, and obviously in the textbooks they do go through some other studies and things as well, which you are also welcome to use. So first off, what is social change? Well, this is when a society as a whole changes. Yeah, pretty much is what it says in the tin. So when a whole society adopts a new way of behaving, new way of thinking, new attitude, okay, which is widely accepted as the new norm. Okay, there have been many occasions in the past for this when this has occurred, and we're going to go through a few in the course of this video. So in terms of implications for conformity research, well, how is this going to affect the research we've done into conformity, and how does the research we've done in conformity affect this idea that society can change to something new, some new way of behaving or thinking or believing? Okay, well, majority influence is what we've covered so far, and it tends to be quite passive. It kind of happens to people, normally due to compliance, so where people are changing their behaviours but not really their beliefs. Yeah, people recycle now, but people don't really believe that the environment has to be saved. They're not making massive changes in their lives. They take their recycling bins out. It's a very passive procedure. Whereas minority influence is a much slower process and normally involves radical change of opinion. So a big change is happening across everyone, and this tends to produce internalization. So we change whole beliefs. Okay. So have a quick think. Pause the video and have a quick think. A couple of minutes. What minorities do you can even think of that have actually influenced the social change? What minorities have had an effect on society as a whole in the past or maybe modern day? Okay, so I'll give you a few minutes to think about that and then obviously start the video again. So, the example you probably came to mind was the civil rights movement. That's what most people tend to think of. There are lots of different examples out there, and if you can think of any, please be in the class, we'll go through them as well. But I'm going to talk about civil rights because it's one of the most straightforward, one of the biggest we've seen in recent history. So obviously the actions of people like Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, these were able to bring about massive social change. Yeah, beliefs about whole groups of people about who they were, what they were like, and what their rights should be. So again, just have a think, but why would their actions, why what they were doing, why was it able to bring about social change? Okay, so pause the video again, think of some ideas, and then start it. Okay, so hopefully you had a little think. You've had to think about different ways in which minorities can behave, maybe things they can do, and you're going to be able to see over the course of this video maybe how on the money you were. Okay, so for social change to happen, yeah, minorities must be able to influence others. So you will never get social change occurring if the minority doesn't contact the majority. Okay, so they have to be able to influence others. Now, research has shown that for the minority to be able to influence the majority, they have to have certain behavioural styles. They have to do certain things in a certain way. So consistency and commitment tend to be most important. So the group needs to be consistent both as a group, they all have to say the same thing, they all have to have the same belief, and also they have to be consistent across time. They have to be always saying the same message. They can't suddenly change radically halfway through their campaigning or anything like that. They always have to be saying the same thing, and they all always have to be saying the same thing. Okay, and this will show that the group is committed to their belief. It's something they firmly hold dear to them, it's something they firmly believe, and any dissent within this group weakens its position. Okay, a consistent minority is much harder to ignore. Okay, they're always saying the same message, they're always trying to get a message across, and it's very, very difficult to actually just ignore them. So the majority kind of has to listen, and then you're exposing them to the group, and you're starting this process of influence. So confidence is also important. Yeah, they need to show they're serious, they need to demand attention, they need to demand respect. Okay, this shows their viewpoint is serious and won't just go away if they're ignored. So they could do certain protests, they could do certain publicity stunts, things like this, but something to show that they are serious, that they are not just going to sit idly by and let things happen. They have to be very persuasive. They have to actually attract the majority or members of the majority over to their position. So in politics, this is known as defection. Yeah. So if the Tory party suddenly becomes very appealing, they might find people in the Labour Party or the Lib Dems might defect over them. Okay. Tends to be in politics for things like moral reasons, because obviously why else are you going to cross over to a minority? But it happens in your life as well. Okay. Clear arguments need to be presented by the minority. Yeah, to be persuasive, to convince the majority, you have to have facts, evidence, scientific reasons. Yeah. The only reasons why recycling and environmentalism has become so big nowadays, part of everyday life, is because there is scientific reasoning behind the fact that we need to be recycling. Okay. The minority also need to be flexible. Okay. If they're seen as rigid, if they're seen as inflexible, uncompromising, they're not going to change views of the majority. They're not going to try and reach an agreement with them if they think they're not going to change their mind. Because remember, a minority by definition has a view that is in stark contrast to the majority. They believe something very, very different. But if they can appear flexible, if they can compromise, or actually do compromise, they're more likely to be seen as less extreme, more moderate, cooperative, reasonable. And this, as a result, have a better chance of changing the majority opinion. Yeah. If you think about people who push for smoking to be banned, well, they're not pushing for an outright ban, well, not yet. It tends to be by inches, by yards. Yeah, first we banned smoking in places like restaurants. Yeah, now it's kind of more public spaces. And it's recently becoming more and more difficult to smoke outside or anywhere that isn't your own private home. And in the future, it might not be completely unreasonable to believe that we will just ban smoking completely because of the massive effects it has on our health. How else could it occur, though? Minority influence. Well, it tends to be very effective if the cause has benefit to wider society. So if a minority is trying to get the majority to change their behaviours because it will help them, not just through self-interest. So there might be some people who have certain beliefs, they want to change society just because it's going to help them. Well, probably society's not going to change. But the reason why banning smoking in public places is becoming so widespread is that it has a helpful effect on everyone. Yeah, passive smoking becomes decreased, everyone's health is increased, litter, etc., etc. You also find as well minorities are more effective at getting their point across, and they are more likely to change the majority view if they're willing to risk harm to themselves. So we saw this a lot in the suffragettes, obviously campaigning for women's rights. So they often went on a hunger strike. Famously, one of them threw himself in front of the Prime Minister's horse, etc., etc., or the King's horse, one of them. Also, Rosa Parks, she risked arrest, she risked legal action being forced against her. Okay, she put herself in harm's way. This shows they're serious, shows they're committed, and makes them more convincing as a group. They must really believe their position to risk such harm, and this is what the point is taken across to the majority. Okay. So if they're persistent, they're consistent, and they're confident, people tend to reconsider their own views. Yeah, people start to think and really kind of check their own beliefs and think, well, why do I believe this? They have this very kind of firmly held belief. Maybe I should have that same belief. Yeah. Now, if that small one person joins their minority, the minority becomes slightly bigger. If it's slightly bigger, it'll affect and reach out to a larger number of people, and you may have a couple of people now join. The minority becomes a little bit bigger. They can reach more people, and so on and so forth. And this is what we call a snowball effect. Over time, very slowly, the minority becomes a majority. Okay. So attitudes can also be changed if people are prepared to speak out. Yeah. So gay rights, homosexual rights in our country haven't always been what they are today. Yeah, it was up to about 1973 that homosexuality was still classified as mental illness. Okay. But if people are prepared to speak out, they are prepared to put themselves in harm's way, to really kind of put this risk out there, they can actually see a change occur. This is what we call social crypto-amnesia. Yeah. Quite a complex term. Another funny word, which is important to know, is what we call a zeitgeist. If you know German, this literally just means time ghost, but really in English means the spirit of the times. Yeah. So there's often a delay before the minority position becomes accepted. So the minority will come across, they'll give a very well thought out, well reasoned, very well backed up with evidence viewpoint. Yeah, they'll show they're serious, they'll show they're consistent, confident, flexible, everything, but change doesn't immediately happen. Okay. Now, psychologists would argue that the zeitgeist, the society at the time, is not ready for a change. Yeah, the attitudes, the beliefs of the current society are in such a way that they just are unmoving. But over time, the zeitgeist changes, and suddenly you see a minority become the majority. Okay, when it's ready, the change can occur. Again, recycling is a really, really good example of this, because it used to be, well, we've always known about things like global warming, we've always known about things like pollution being bad and we shouldn't litter and we should recycle more, and these arguments have never really changed. But suddenly, late 90s, early 2000s, people everywhere started recycling, and it seemed to be a society which is more accepting. Darwin's theory of evolution as well, this idea that he put forward for a long time, was rebuked and not believed and damned as heresy and things, very quickly suddenly gained traction and became the predominant theory of our origin as a species. Okay, this is actually IO1. Yeah, for a minority influence to occur, they have to show consistency, commitment, confidence, persuasiveness, and flexibility. All right, these are kind of the key factors they have to be willing to show. So support for this need for flexibility, okay, comes from Nemeth in '86. So this was an experiment and it was based on a kind of a mock jury trial. So groups of 3 participants and 1 Confederate had to decide on the amount of compensation to be given to the victim of a ski lift accident. Okay, so we've got kind of a group here, they have to make a decision, they have to come to the same decision. Okay, so in our Confederate, who was our consistent minority, when they argued for a very low amount and refused to change their position, they had no effect on the majority. The majority always awarded them quite a large sum. Okay, however, when our Confederate compromised, so he showed flexibility and moved some way towards a majority position, so he started very low, but over time would actually compromise and increase how much he believed should be awarded. Okay, the majority also compromised and changed their view and actually awarded the kind of the fake person, the victim, less money. Now, this obviously supports the idea that flexibility is very important for a minority to change the viewpoints of a majority, because when they're not being flexible, they're having no effect, but when they are being flexible, they are having an effect on the majority. Okay, because in this case it's 3 participants, 3 naive participants, and 1 Confederate, 1 Confederate being a minority. Support for the need for consistency comes from Moscovici. Okay, so quick question: do you know the difference between green and blue? Hopefully you do. Yeah, but there is often occasions when there is dispute. Yeah, a number of times I've heard students having arguments, I've had arguments with students about whether a top or a coat is green or blue or somewhere in between. It's probably too many to count. Okay, so we're going to look through, there's a few different colours, just in case you're a bit, I don't know, confident or too confident in your own ability to judge green and blue, and show you how difficult it can be. Okay. If you're down at B&Q, if you look at the Dulux colour stand or anything like that, or any of the other paint manufacturers, you will see that they have this horrendous amount of just colours. Yeah, I mean here we've just got different variations of colours they've got of the spectrum between green and blue. All of them arguably, well, potentially arguably either. Yeah. So we have this kind of this bit of ambiguity. What is the colour? Now people will take their own stand and say, I think this is green or I think this is blue. Yeah. If you don't give them an option of something like turquoise or teal or something like that, they say it has to be one or the other. People have their opinion, right? So Moscovici's study, he wanted to know if a minority could influence a majority. Yeah. And he wanted to see what conditions were needed for this to occur. So he wanted to find out, well, when does minority influence actually? So what he did, he's got a group of 6 females, all with no colour blindness, because obviously quite important for a colour perception task, and 2 of these were Confederates. These were a minority, okay, and the other 4 were naive participants, a majority, okay. Now they were all actually shown 36 blue slides. So we've seen how difficult it can be to tell green from blue sometimes, but these were all blue. Yeah, there's different shades of blue. So an unambiguous task, just like Ash, okay? And he was asking them, well, is it green or is it blue? Okay, so the first condition, we had a consistent minority. Yeah, so our Confederates always said green on every single trial. Okay, our other condition was an inconsistent minority. So they only said green on 2 out of 3 trials. Okay, and they were measuring the number of times the naive majority said green as well. What he found was that when there was a consistent minority, when they always said green, 8% of trials showed minority influence. So on 8% of trials, we've got a majority also saying green. Not a huge number, but we're going to make a comparison to our control condition in a moment. A third of participants said green at least once. So quite a large number, to be honest, 1 in 3. With the inconsistent minority, though, it was only 1% of trials showed minority influence. So it's not so much the kind of the size of the number here, it's this comparison between the conditions. The fact of being consistent compared to inconsistent has had a massive effect on the number of trials that has shown minority influence. Okay. So what did he conclude? Well, he said minorities can be influential, but only when they're consistent. Yeah, this is kind of our key study for our AO1 for minority influence. Real world evidence, though, because it's all based around lab experimentation, comes from Fathers for Justice. So we could criticise Moscovici, it's a lab experiment, very controlled conditions, lacks real world application, so lacks ecological validity. How do we know that this is actually going to work in the real world? Okay, so I'm going to upload a clip of Farmers for Justice, quite a famous group now, actually. And I want you to use your knowledge while you're watching it to kind of think, how has this group managed to influence other people? Yeah, consider things like the behavioural styles, zeitgeist, snowball effect, their willingness to risk harm, or maybe the benefits to wider society as you do this. Okay, so pause the video, go watch the clip on Firefly or whatever intranet we're using, and come back to this in a moment. So you've watched the video, you've made your notes, you've had a think. Let's go through the different behavioural styles. Okay, so consistency. Well, Fathers for Justice has been active for well over 10 years. Okay, and their consistent message is that children need fathers, and that current laws are significantly favouring mothers. Every member of Fathers for Justice says this, and they've always said this, showing they're consistent in their beliefs. Persuasiveness. They use specific examples where fathers have been treated unfairly. They use psychological research to show the benefits of fathers on children's welfare, and they risk arrest. Yeah, they show it's an issue that affects a lot of people and affects wider society. So they're trying to be very persuasive, and they are being very persuasive by doing this. Yeah, actual evidence, actual research to help them. Confidence, well, the stunts they do, yeah, the demonstrations they do, these kind of show their confidence in their views. It attracts their media attention. Okay, the zeitgeist, as divorce rates are increasing, and we're going to be seeing the effects of these absent fathers on children. It's obviously very important to today's society, to the spirit of the time today, so we might be seeing a change happening soon. And the snowball effect, well, support for Fathers for Justice is growing. Okay, every stunt they do, they get more members. As they have more members, they can do more stunts. Very quickly, they could become a majority view. And actually changes are beginning to happen. There is an increase in paternity leave. Yeah, they have made changes recently, or in the past 5 years, looking at how kind of private courts are handled with especially kind of family cases. Okay, so make sure you've got notes on all these, and make sure you bring those notes and any questions you've got on this video to our next lesson, when we're going to go through some other little points about other ways that social influence can influence social change. Okay, thank you.